What's up, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Temporarily Obsessed. I am your host, Walkingkeys, and welcome to the show where we are always curious. And tonight we have a very special guest, a longtime friend, but more importantly, he is the godfather of hard house music in LA. He has a #1 Billboard remix. He is a longtime radio personality and is a legend in house music. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. DJ Tony B. What's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing? My first question for you is, do I have to call you Walking Keys or can I just call you Keezer?
You can call me whatever you want. Keezer, Keezy. I mean, Keezy would be like most reminiscent of the old
Yeah.
days.
Now, can I jump in here and let's do full disclosure, Mr.
Yeah.
Keezer, our Keezy, our Walking Keys, whatever the hell we're going to call him tonight, and I go way back. I would definitely consider him one of my best friends in the world. He used to live about four houses down. For what? We had a good run for about 6, 7 years in the
Oh,
neighborhood
yeah,
together.
7 years. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
And then he moved away and broke my heart. So now
Uh,
this is all I get from him nowadays. But just want to let you guys know we do have a little bit of a connection.
we do. And as I started out this show, Temporarily Obsessed, where basically we're going to talk to interesting people about interesting things. You were the absolute first person I wanted to talk to. Uh and you're not even my most famous friend, but definitely by far one of my best for sure. And I am so happy you're here, man. I really appreciate you.
Well, I'm happy that you are still temporarily obsessed with me.
I am. It goes. It's waves. It's waves.
Okay. Now let me ask when this is I want to understand, and I think since this is your first episode, people, I have
Yeah.
interviewing skills and background as well, so I may hijack this from time to time. What is
I,
this based on, temporarily obsessed? Is this things that you want to learn to do, or what is this whole thing about here we're doing?
yeah. Basically, the name is organic. It came from my wife. She told me, she said, "Hey, you should start a podcast or something called Temporarily Obsessed, because that's all you do is you get temporarily obsessed with things. You know
I
how it
can, I
is.
can, yeah, I
We
co-sign that. I
Yeah,
co-sign that very, very much, and she is a wise woman, and
yeah.
that's a great name. I love the name.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I remember being temporarily obsessed with you, doing auctions. I remember making pallet patio furniture. Like
Pallet
we
patio furniture is coming to your town. Oh, there's
it
a
was,
theme song and everything, people. You don't even know.
oh, we had good times back in the days. Back in
Yes,
the
we did.
days.
Oh,
And
Cascade Boys.
yeah, man, I appreciate the walk down memory lane every time I talk to you. But I think we're going to dive down a little deeper down memory lane here.
All
And
right.
I know a lot about you, but I've got some questions I want to ask you about things that you were involved with that I don't even know too much about. So I
Things
kind
that
of
we
want to
never
learn.
discussed in the garage. I mean, we spent a lot of time in various garages, yours and
We
mine.
did
So these are things that could be a whole nother show. Things we never discussed in the garage. But go ahead.
that, which was basically wherever our wives kicked us out to. That was the only
Yeah.
space we were allowed to hang out.
And pretty
And
much still is. But
yeah.
anyway.
um, so I do want to talk about house music and hard house music and music in general. I mean, back in the early 90s, there were a few scenes in America that were really coming alive and creating an identity that would kind of transcend like local culture and go nationwide and even have international influence. And one of those was like grunge in Seattle in the early
Yeah.
90s. And another one would be what was happening in house and hard house in LA and Chicago. So I really kind of want to know, what was that scene like when it was first emerging, and did you have a sense that there was something special about what was happening?
Well, first of all, we were kids, so we didn't really have a blueprint or a map to know what we were doing. We were just kind of making it up as we go along. So we didn't have any really mentors or anybody to show us what we were supposed to do or not do. And luckily, my situation was very unique. I had a radio station behind me, one of the biggest radio stations in Los Angeles, Power 106. I was a mixer there. So we got a lot of support from that. But it was a very organic thing, man. It just happened to me. I didn't have any kind of plan for anything to happen. Everything just happened along step by step by step. Things just fell into our lap. But the music was just so raw, and it isn't like today where artists are judged by how many followers they have. It was just how good of music you put out. And this form of music, you didn't have to have big studios to do it. I think that's one of the reasons this isn't really the story of why it's called house music. But to me, I love the fact that house music, we took it and we made it in our houses. We made it in our garage, our spare bedroom, or whatever. So it was just a really organic thing. And yeah, I agree with you that what we started and what we did in Los Angeles is definitely still part of what's happening in this big EDM world now, where these DJs are making millions and millions of dollars. Steve Aoki and David Guetta, those kind of guys. I think we definitely laid the groundwork for what those guys are doing today.
Yeah, you were kind of the roadmap that you said like you
That
all
we didn't
didn't
have,
have.
yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's pretty cool just to be a part of that. And do you remember your first performance, like your first performance
As a DJ, first performance as a
as
DJ.
as like getting started and down this path?
Well, it's weird because I started off all through high school. I played percussion. So starting in fifth grade, I started playing drums. And when I got out of high school, I was in, I guess, what you would call a cover band, party cover band. We would go around and play little, parties, little house parties, or get hired for little events and stuff like that. So I started off like that. So I definitely can't remember starting playing drums back when I was that young. But as far as the DJing, my first DJing gig was actually because of that band and having that band equipment, actually more so. It was a local community pool, was going to have some kind of pool party or event, and we tried to get them to hire the band. They didn't want the band, they wanted a DJ. I knew nothing about DJ where I grew up in Virginia, here in Virginia and up in Northern Virginia. There wasn't any DJ culture at that time. I mean, I'm 59 years old, so we're talking a long time ago. So I figured out, well, I got two home stereo systems and I've got this big mixing board and all these speakers and microphones. So my first DJ gig, I had two of those portable home stereo systems all in one. I had the two speakers from each stereo system underneath the table, and I put microphones in front of each speaker. Then I ran those microphones into the big mixing board, and that's how I DJ'd my first event.
Dude, that's crazy.
And knowing nothing about DJing, and even after that day and that gig, had no desire to continue DJing. That was just a one-time thing. Didn't get me hooked or anything like that. That came a little bit later down the road.
So when you first played, you weren't instantly hooked. It was just kind of something. It was just something that was there.
It was something to get that gig, to make that money. That's all I
Yeah.
wanted to do, was use that equipment to make that money. And it was our local community pool, so I wanted to be involved in some way, shape, or form. But after it was over, I didn't have any. I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep bringing these double stereos out and microphone. No, I didn't want to do that again. That was. I pulled it off, but just, I mean, I call it, it's ghetto style. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had microphones, I had these two stereos, and I had some records, and I had an opportunity to make some money.
And you just made it happen. So did you associate like DJing with like making money, or did you what got you hooked that was like this is something different?
It's still kind of to do with that band. So I had a gig with that same band at a Holiday Inn in Old Town Alexandria one night. Gig didn't go very well. I was a pretty decent drummer, and we had a good lead guitar player. Everybody else in the band pretty much sucked. So after the gig, I put packed up my drums in the van, and I'm like, well, let me try to pop in the little bar here and have a drink after a rough gig. So I go in there, and I see the DJ, and this again, I was probably underage and snuck in. I wasn't 21 yet, and
allegedly.
Allegedly. Not knowing anything about DJ culture at that age. There wasn't anything around me. I knew not one person that was a DJ. And saw this dude in the Holiday Inn. He was DJing. So I see people bringing him drinks. I see chicks hanging around, and he's playing music. And that right there hooked me.
That was
I went the next day to Radio Shack and bought the cheapest mixer I could find, and to Circuit City and bought two of the cheapest turntables I could find the next day.
That's awesome. And literally the next day. So that's what it took. It wasn't, hey, I can make a little money, and it's not. It was,
well, I mean, that was part of it. I figured, well, he's there professionally, so
but
he's
the
definitely making the
culmination.
money. Yeah, it was the whole thing,
culmination
making
of
the
all
money.
that.
They're bringing him drinks. There's chicks around, and he's playing music. What else? At 18, 19, 20 years old, what else you want out of life?
I mean, and that changed your life right there.
Yeah, not much right there.
The Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn, Old Town Alexandria. Yep.
And so what got you to move? I mean, at some point, I mean, obviously you made a big jump to go from there to LA. What got you?
Pretty interesting story. Yeah. I started working a little bit at that Holiday Inn. I started, that guy obviously started talking to me at some point because I used to go every night, every Friday and Saturday and watch him and just stand there. So we started chatting it up and it got to the point where, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. So come on in and play with you. So I told him I was learning on my own, but I never really asked him for instruction or anything. I just watched what he did, didn't bug him, and just implemented myself.
Yeah.
So at one point, they ended up opening up another venue there at the Holiday Inn. So I started doing that. And then my first big gig I got in the one ads, Washington Post. I answered an ad I had to go up to Annapolis, Maryland to do an audition. I got there, had the turntables, the standard turntables I was used to, but they had a rotary mixer. Most
Oh,
mixers
no.
that we all mix on, the mixers go up and down like this, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. I went there and I saw this rotary mixer. I had no idea. I'd never seen a rotary mixer before in my life. But I got on that audition and I almost cussed. I freaking killed it.
Right.
Guy hired me on the spot. Within this it was a chain that was patterned after a chain in California named the Red Onion. Red Onion had like a Mexican restaurant on one side and then a nightclub on the other side. So they were trying to copy this up in Maryland. So they had a couple, like 4 or 5 different locations. So within 6 months, I became the top DJ in the whole company. And the guy that hired me at that audition in Annapolis worked there for a while. Then after a while, he moved back to California. And just about a year, 2 years later, I just get this random phone call. His name was Ken Kashan. Tony, I'm opening up a nightclub in LA. I want you to be one of my DJs. Boop.
Yep.
Packed up the Nissan Sentra. I was gone, baby.
That was it.
That was it.
That's pretty awesome. Now, what was so I guess once you got into the DJ culture and you started DJing, you started finding your way to house music. And what got you there? Like make that bridge for me.
Yeah, so when I first got to LA, I was definitely still, I guess, what you would call today an open format DJ. I played party music. First couple years in LA, pretty quickly I became a Billboard reporter for Billboard magazine, which back in those days was a very prestigious position. There was only 100 of them in the country, and those are the people that their charts compiled the Billboard top 50 dance play chart. So that was my real introduction. Kind of the first couple records, they started working to me. I started noticing this new sound, this house music sound. So I did that for about 6 months to a year, being a Billboard reporter, kind of getting familiar with the sound. I was still DJing pretty much full time, 4 or 5 nights a week in Los Angeles at a big club while this was happening. And then I left being a Billboard reporter to start working for an independent promotion company. The first record that I worked was Todd Terry, Bango Back to the Beat. People who know house music know that's like one of the holy grails of house music. So that's one of the first records that I worked as an independent promoter. What I would do is for that, I would start calling those 100 Billboard reporters and promote these records to them. The second
Because you
one
knew
was,
how it worked.
Yeah, exactly. I was on the other side. That's why I got hired for that gig. And that just starting to promote those records. And then the club that I was at the same time, later it was a club that closed at 2 o'clock. So 2 a.m. So as it got later in the night, I would start testing these kind of house records, and they weren't working. At a certain point, the club that I was at decided we're going to be open till 4 a.m. So I'm like, all right, this is it. This is the chance. 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., nothing but house music. First time I did it, oh my God, the place cleared out in 15 minutes. They hated it. People hated it. So I kind of fell in love with it there, but had to put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
A little bit after that time, I got into radio. There's a whole bunch of other steps. I started working for Delicious Vinyl Records. Then eventually I started working for these radio stations as a mixer. Open format, playing just party music. My chance and where house music and me really made the connection is when I was at Power 106 and teamed up with Richard Vision to do Power Tools. Power Tools was a specialty show on Power 106 that aired from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Saturday night, Sunday morning, whatever you want to call it. That was nothing but house, techno, that kind of music, underground music. So getting into that show, I was still doing regular mixes at Power 106, but was also doing Power Tools. Power Tools became just a monster of a show. Then
Iconic
Richard and
in a way.
And still,
I,
Richard has that show still on today on Pitbull's Globalization on Sirius
that's awesome.
XM. So that it's the longest running underground dance show in the United States. Props to
That's
him. We just had the 30-year anniversary of Power Tools in LA this past summer. I went out for it. It was an amazing event.
oh my
But
gosh.
we kind of at that time, Richard and I really became like partners. We had Power Tools. We started this club called the Dome together, which was in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard, 2,000 kids every Saturday night. And then we started our own record label, Aqua Boogie Records, which was LA's first house music record label. So it was that show and the influence of that show and how popular it did and what it did for me and my career was because of the show on Power Tools on Power 106, the Dome, and then having
Right.
our record label at the same time. That connection of those three things made Tony B.
Yeah.
Right there. That's what made me.
So really, house music made you. You were born at the same time, then, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and
Now,
I mean, and that's where I started. I mean, that's where I started the show. We got interest from people for us to start go DJing outside of Los Angeles. So that's where you kind of know you're getting to a different level when you're
right.
starting. Mike Flores, my dear friend Mike Flores, lived in El Paso, Texas. He's the first one to book me out of LA, and
That's awesome.
then we started producing music, and it just took off from there, man. And again, it was all those things together were so important to have the
Yeah.
backing of Power 106, which gave us, that the show Power Tools on Power 106, which gave us incredible relationships with record labels,
Gave you a
because
leg up, real
that was one of
leverage.
the few true outlets in American radio where you could get that kind of music played. So all those underground house labels we had, we were doing remixes for them, and they were sending us on trips. And some people say it's a little payola here and there, but we never took money for
Allegedly.
anything. But if somebody wants us, we would trade. Like, okay, you want to send us to the Winter Music Conference in Miami? You're going to cover our flights and hotel. When we come back, we'll do a remix for you.
Yeah.
Because they knew if we did the remix, we're going to play it on the radio.
And one thing I was looking at in doing my due diligence for this show, the Power Tools, the Aqua Boogie, those videos that are up on YouTube. If you read the comments under those videos, they're all like people just saying, "Oh my gosh, haven't heard this in forever. It brings me back to such a special time," like over and over.
Yeah.
I haven't heard this in forever. Thank you so much. I've missed this so much because it really was a very unique time. But ultimately, I have one very, very specific question. Uh,
Okay.
what is the musical element or elements that make house music house? Like what is it? What makes it different?
I think the main element is the 4/4 kick. Boom, 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 boom. That's house
Yeah.
music. If it doesn't have that, it's not house music. Now, of course, and
I
I would
mean,
say that house is a tempo also. The tempo would be probably from 120 beats per minute to 126, maybe 128.
right.
4/4 kick. That's it. And then you're going to have your bass lines and your synths, but it's a very percussive driven music, very percussive driven.
Which is probably why you gravitated to it in the first place. I
For
mean, if
being a
you're
drummer, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Now you mentioned something I want to ask you about is Delicious Vinyl, which is for those of you that don't know, it's a legendary rap label.
Yeah,
I mean, they had Young MC, Tone Loc,
yeah,
Jesse James. I mean, it was a pretty
yeah.
epic.
Def
Oh, here we go.
Jeff, brand new
Def Jeff.
heavies, brand new
What's his?
heavies, and Dia Davenport, Far Side. There's a legendary logo right there, man. Man, people used to kill for the Delicious Vinyl jackets and T-shirts.
Such a cool logo. Yeah, I agree. That
Yeah.
is pretty epic. Now, what would you say, like your normal day in the early 90s in LA working at Delicious Vinyl? What would be like a normal day? And then what is like the craziest day you've ever had?
Wow. Delicious Vinyl was a crazy journey. And again, that was wedged in between me being a Billboard reporter, a little bit of independent promotion, Delicious Vinyl, and then going into radio. So it was like a two year in that wedge. I started off, I was still doing a little bit of that independent promotion company. I was working for that, working the Billboard reporters. And then they're like, all right, why don't you come do that for us here? I'm like, all right, all right. So they hired me officially to come do that there. So I was working the record pools and the Billboard reporters. Now I'll tell, this is a funny story. You know the Montel Jordan song, "This Is How We Do It," huge
Yeah.
song.
Good
Everybody
idea.
knows that
Yeah.
song. And the rap part when he says something about here, I met a DJ. DJ Paul was his name.
Yeah.
That's Paul Stewart. He sat next to me at Delicious Vinyl Records in the War Room.
Oh, that's
He did
awesome.
promotion as well. So DJP, Paul Stewart, the guy that discovered Montel Jordan, and Montel did a verse about him or a lyric about him, sat next to me at Delicious Vinyl Records. We started
That's
off
cool.
in the little teeny. They had their big success, and their first office was on right off of Melrose. And people who know LA, Melrose is a really cool hip area. So working there at first, just going down to Melrose every day and being down there, there was great record stores there in that day was really cool. The early days, I grinded really hard there, doing the promotion for the Billboard reporters and stuff. Because again, talking about house music, in that time, the Billboard chart was very, very house music heavy. And
Yeah.
we didn't really have house music artists at Delicious Vinyl. It was really more kind of poppy, cheesy poppy stuff. So I got only a couple records onto the Billboard charted. Like one was Def Jeff dropping rhymes on drums that I blew them away that I got that on the chart because it was a straight rap record. And then the other one was a couple of the brand new heavies records that did pretty well for us. But
Nice.
throughout time with so an average day would just be going in there and getting on the phone and calling record pools and calling Billboard reporters and leaving messages and hoping that they'll call them back. And the ones that were local, you try to go visit them or link up with them. Then later on, they made me the national director of pop promotion. We moved to an office on Sunset Boulevard, really, really cool office. So I have my own office right over on Sunset Boulevard, looking on the boulevard. And when I would do that, when I did that job, I was same thing, but now promoting music to radio stations all across the country. So I'd be calling radio stations, and when I did that, I would go visit all the radio stations in LA. So this is where I started getting my radio relationships and stuff like that. And so I'd go visit the radio stations, and then they put me out on the road for 6 months with the man you mentioned, Jesse James, who is now known as his real name, Jesse Itzler, one of the owners of the Atlanta Hawks. His wife invented Spanx. So I was on the road with that guy for 6 months. They put us out on the road. I was the road manager, the DJ, the radio rep, the driver, the everything. We were on the road for 6 months, either in a Winnebago or a minivan, staying in cheap motels, and
Yeah.
I mean crazy stories I can't tell on this thing right now. That
That's
was
probably
probably
a good thing.
that was the wildest 6 months probably of my life. It was a
Yeah.
freaking whirlwind. We started off in Cleveland, Ohio, doing a
Yeah.
big radio show. The next night we'd be in a frat house, the basement of a frat house in the college, and we crisscrossed from Cleveland, Ohio to Miami, Florida. And Miami, Florida, we had our equipment stolen in Liberty City. I went and got our equipment back in Liberty City, baby, because I wasn't going out like that. So that's a whole nother story.
So
That's
somebody
probably the
stole your
craziest night.
equipment
They broke
and you
into
went
the
and got it
van and
back?
stole our DAT machine, our wireless mic, all of the Delicious Vinyl merch. So I'm driving around Liberty City in the van. I go get the dancers and I go get Jesse. I said, we gotta go find this stuff. So we're driving around Liberty City. It's like one of the nastiest ghettos in the United States, Liberty City. And I start seeing Delicious Vinyl t-shirts everywhere. So I know we're getting close. And then I see a guy with the main thing was the backpack, had the cordless mic and our DAT machine. DAT machine is what played the show music. That backpack was everything. And I saw the guy with the backpack, and I ran, just jumped out of the van, ran and tackled him, and I took that backpack, got back in the van, and
It took off.
then we got out.
Oh my
So we got
gosh.
our equipment. I let him have all the T-shirts. We let him have the Delicious Vinyl T-shirts. I just wanted that mic and that DAT player back.
Fair enough. And you got it back.
That was.
And I appreciate that insight there. And I have a little more insight. I heard you once performed in a Portuguese castle with your pants down. Is that true?
Yes. That's probably. A few people have asked me like my overall as a DJ most memorable gig, and I would say that's probably that one. I had a European tour, and Oporto, Portugal was one of the stops, and just the most beautiful, picturesque place. That's where port wine comes from, and there's a river goes right through the middle of the town, and this was basically like a castle overlooking the river. And we were down in the dungeon, and it's my first time in Europe, so I might have been on various different substances, allegedly. But
Allegedly.
we were having a good time, and it was just one of the most incredible gigs. And back in those days, I was a little crazy. A lot of people don't scratch over house music. Bad Boy Bill is one. There's a handful of guys nowadays. Back in the day, I was one of the very few that would do it. I played music very aggressively. You know what I'm saying? No matter if I'm playing house, hard house, even currently, open format, I'm very aggressive with my music. So when I get into it, I'm just going nuts. I used to have long hair. I had a ponytail straight up, and this is when we still carried records. So I put my record crate down, and I would stand up on the record crate, and boom, I had cool boxers on, but I would drop my pants and start scratching and start. Yeah, I did that, man.
Yeah, that's
The
awesome.
pants came off quite a few times at gigs, though. That wasn't the only one.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've seen the entire evolution of house music, from the beginning to where it is now. And I wonder what's like the biggest advantage that you had, when you started in house music, as opposed to people starting now, and then vice versa. Like, what's something that's really easy for people now that you had a really hard time with?
The easiest thing, and the thing that was hardest for us, is you can make a song and you can release it and have it all around the world in one day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just let's go through the process of how we had to make a song and release a song back in the day.
Walk me through that
Yeah.
process.
Okay. We would produce it in our own studio, toil over till we got it right, think it's right, and then we would if we got a little bit more seasoned, we would go make. Gosh, I know I could find one if I look, but I don't want to look right now. We would go to where we would get the records. The first step of getting a record pressed is getting the plates made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where you get the plates made, you can also get this thing called an acetate. An acetate is basically a test pressing that will last for about 10 to 15 spins. After that, it disintegrates and falls apart. So, back in those days, we played records. That was the only thing we had to play music off of. Sometimes I would use a reel-to-reel, which, is a big, bulky thing, but not very often. So if we wanted to test something, we would have to go to Hollywood, make an acetate, which costs $75. You could put maybe 4 songs on it, and you could test those songs. So there's your first expense.
By testing, you meant like literally going to the club.
I'd go make it, then I'd go to my club Saturday night and play it. Do I like the way this sounds? Do I like the way it feels? Okay, no, I got to go back. And then maybe if you didn't like it, you'd repeat that whole process. Okay, then when you finally get it to where you want it, you go back to that guy to make the plates, which is what actually presses into the vinyl. And
How
that,
much were those?
I think that was about $350.
Oh man,
Okay?
Which is not cheap.
No. And then you would do your little artwork that would get pressed on the thing. So you'd have to do that, which having somebody design that would be about another $150. Then you'd have to press up those labels. I forget the cost of that. And then get all that stuff over to the pressing plant. So then it basically, after you get the plates made for the pressing, it was basically about $250 a record. $250 to $325 a record, depending on if maybe we would do a colored record or something like that. Yeah. So each piece of vinyl would be that. Then you'd have the vinyl, and what do you do with it then? Well, first we would do what's called test pressings. So we would make maybe about 50 white labels, or just would say test pressing, we would write on there what it is. We would mail out individual copies to our really good connections all around the country. Our special DJs, like those Billboard reporters, guys that mixed on other radio stations, stuff like that. So what's each package? $4.55 a piece, plus the record that was, $3-4 to each person.
Yeah.
Just to start to create a buzz. Okay, cool. Everybody likes it. There's a buzz going. Now let's do the official records. Then you press up the official records. You got boxes and boxes of records sitting in your truck. You have to distribute them all around the country, work out deals with this distributor in this region, this distributor in Texas, this distributor in the Northeast, and it was just unbelievable. You have to go through all that. And then after you get it out there in all those stores, you got to be a bill collector and try to collect your money on all those records. Now
do you think
you make the track, you upload it to one of these distribution sites, and that's it.
But because of how easy it is to get music out there, do you think that all of that was like a if you were able to make money during that time, you had something that was unique and special, or was it like just as lucky as it is now, like whatever hits?
Oh, I think I mean, again, it all goes back to that trifecta, bro. You
Yeah,
know, we had the radio station to play it. We had the hottest club in LA to test our tracks and play our tracks. And we had the hottest radio show in LA to play our tracks on.
yeah,
So, I mean, I don't think we would have had those things if we weren't good at what we did.
right. Yeah, it's like
I
a
mean, this is the number two
self-fulfilling.
market in the this is the number two market in the country. They're not going to put these idiots if they're not doing something right, you know, and people ate it up. You know, we would be booked, you know, booked always, you know, booked in town, out of town for years and years and years. So, I mean,
And
now that let me give you a stat that's mind blowing. You probably know this stat: 120,000. 120,000 songs released and uploaded to platforms every single day.
that's a lot of songs. And
So,
do you think music consumption is up higher than it's ever been too?
yes, totally, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, along with podcasts and stuff like that, but there's just so many different ways to consume it now. You
yeah.
know, and these little things, you know, you can walk anywhere and listen to it without being intrusive and bother people and stuff. But yeah, I think music consumption is way, way up on so many different levels
Yeah.
and so many different platforms.
That's interesting. So, we haven't talked about the music you've released at all. And you've released a few albums, I mean, hundreds of songs, mixes, remixes. What makes a Tony B original like a Tony B? Like, put your sound into words if you can.
I think I'm known for just making just dirty, raunchy house music, and not so much in the lyrical content. I'm not, you know, some songs, yeah, are a little raunchy lyrical content. I mean that in a musical sense.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like my sound being like really pristine, clean. I like it grungy. I like it just a lot of swing, a lot of feel to it. You know, I don't care if the samples that I use are pristine, clean. I want a little. I just like dirty, funky, nasty house music. That's what I like. That's what I do. If
I
that's a descriptive, I don't know.
I mean, you did exactly what I asked you to do. So I appreciate it. You put your sound into words. No, I mean, and I mean, to be honest, it impressed me that you're able to say it that quickly. But that tells me that you're just so in tune with your sound and your craft. And
That's what it is, man. That's, you know, I
yeah,
mean, and that could go, it could have a lot of, it could be happy one day, dark one day, but it's always going to have that nasty kick, and a little teeny
yeah,
bit of a distortion to it. It's going to have some kind of bass line that, you know, it just makes it, if that make you move, then I did something wrong.
yeah. There you go. That's the ultimate factor, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
and I absolutely love that you were saying that you actually take the music that you played, and I mean, you went through many steps from the time you actually finished making the song to when you could play it in the club,
Yeah.
and then test it, see if it works right, and then if it doesn't, you go back and tweak it. I just think
And
that's awesome.
I still do that now. I still do that now. I don't have to go to the expense and all the steps and jump through hoops to do it now, but I
Right.
definitely do it now if I'm working on something, or you know. And now I work on music a lot, guys, with my buddy DJ Chubb down the street. We're called Noise Ninjas. Most of my really recent production is as Noise Ninjas, just so you know. And so that brings a whole nother little aspect into it when you're working with somebody else, is how do I still get that little Tony B signature sound in there,
Yeah.
even though it's not just a Tony B, but it's a Noise Ninjas thing. And luckily I have such a great partner in Chubb that he embraces that nastiness of my house music. You know what I'm saying? He
Nice.
understands it, he gets it. So
And shout out to Chubb out there. And
yep, yep. He's
for
in the
those of
hood.
you,
He's an honorary Cascade boy. He's on a court that's off of Cascade, so he's
little,
honorary Cascade.
little cul-de-sac, but we still
Yeah.
consider part of the family. The
You say
and
cul-de-sac, I say court. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Cul-de-sac.
I mean, I don't know what's right. I just
I think they're both acceptable.
well, agreed. Uh, so I, work with. I did want to say Noise Ninjas. They're the ones providing the music underneath. underneath this track or underneath the video here. And they're going to, Tony B has been so gracious and giving me whatever music I need kind of for these other videos. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that, dude.
Have at it, brother. Noise Ninjas. NOIZENINJAZ. Noise Ninjas. Pretty sick Spotify. I mean, we've got some legit heaters up there.
Yeah, and you might even have one on there with me, right? Grande Pantalones.
There is Grande Pantalones. Hey, bro. I still love that track. I
I
still
love
play the
that track
heck out
too.
of that track. I still play the heck out of that track.
It's a good one. We might have to put a
Yeah.
link in the
Yeah.
description after
Yes.
this.
That's Mr.
So
Keyser on the vocals there.
yeah, that's all I bring to the table. There's no distinct Walking Keys sound. I can't put it in words.
You're still working on that.
Yeah. So I have a
That's
question
funny.
for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned working with Chubb. You've worked with, I mean, hundreds of other artists in various ways, and especially being on radio, having to do stuff. Can you tell me your approach to like a collaboration or working with people? And what do you do if it isn't working? Like, I'm sure back in the day you had to work with people, you would have a contract, and if it wasn't working, but you still had to get it done, how did you navigate that issue?
I've been pretty fortunate. I don't think I've really had that come into play too many times. Maybe in some business dealings or maybe decisions that we made with Aqua Boogie, we'd bump heads sometimes, but we'd always just vote. As far as production, I would say the majority of my production until I linked up with Chubb. I did spend a little bit of time in LA as the Hooligans with my homie DJ Orlando. We had a great little run, but we never really bumped heads on stuff. Chubb and I have never really bumped. I don't think I have an answer for that, Keezy. I don't think that's ever really. As far as when I go into a project, I don't really have any expectations other than just to try to make. Every time I make something, my expectation is to make something that I will play.
Not necessarily that has your name on it, right? It may or may not. I mean,
I don't care if it says
sound like, yeah, you don't care as long as you don't care your contribution level as long as it hits, right?
Well, and what's the definition of hits? See, I don't. It doesn't have to hit because again, with 120,000 songs a day, not many of them are going to hit, bro.
No, I mean like
that I release are going to hit. Yeah, it's got to hit. It's got to sound good. Yeah, I got
like you would listen.
To again, will I play it? If I'm going to do a house set, will I play that track?
Yeah.
And if I won't, then I don't want to put it out. There's no reason.
Well, I think that answers the question, to be honest, and it comes down to kind of how I know you are as a person, but also, if you haven't run into a problem working with other people, then it's probably because you're easy to work with and you're there for the right reasons. You're trying to find a solution. So, I think you kind of answered it.
I think that everybody that I work with is a talented person, and maybe they see something a little different. I see something a little different. We'll compromise. If at the end of the day, I don't think anything that we're doing here making music is that serious.
Yeah,
it's not. And if it's
really,
not, you're not having. Yeah, and if you're not having fun while you're doing it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
I just want to have a good time and make something that I'll play. That's it. I don't, whether it's Tony B, whether it's Noise Ninjas, Rachi Boys, Zycash, I just want to make something I'll play.
Man, I love it. And you're the one song "Free" that you did with Georgie Porgy. That song still rattles in my head probably 2 times a week, man. I love that song.
It's a damn good song, man. It's a damn
is.
Good song. Yeah.
We'll put that
in. And again, there goes, I'll pat myself on the back. I'll pat Chubb on the back. I'll pat Georgie on the back. We made a great song, and it didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
I'm still negative. Georgie sends us twice a year. He sends us, the bookkeeping. We're still, what's that called? In the red or the red, right? If you're not making money, you're in the red. It's still in the red. And the investment on that was a little bit of promotion, and he came to town himself to shoot a video. We didn't spend a lot of money, and we're still in the red. And it's a damn good song.
Yeah. I think my dad's car made an appearance in that video too.
It did. That's right. Yeah.
So. Shout out, Pops.
Yeah.
Hey, I do want to say, as now kind of looking back at this whole thing, you've had some highs and definitely some highs in the industry and had some pretty good success over your career. What kind of advice would you give to people starting out these days, newer artists, people that are passionate about finding their sound? Like, what advice would you give them to help them, not be discouraged? Like you said, there's 100,000 songs out a day. Like, what's that tip that you would give them?
Realistic expectations, number one. And she old school. Don't quit your day job.
Yeah.
Not until you're out there making really damn good money and you're getting gigs left and right all over the place. Keep your day job and do it because you love to do it. Don't do it because you want to be popular. Don't do it you think it's a cool thing to do. Don't do it because you think you're going to get chicks. Do it because you really want to do it. I mean, we have
Yeah.
5 million DJs here just in Fredericksburg. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I'm gonna put while we're on right now, I'm gonna start putting people on blast. Don't call yourself a DJ if you can't DJ.
You heard it here.
Just say you play music.
Now, what is a DJ then? Like,
if you can't beat mix, my dear friend JD Roberts, he tried to book me for, I think it was his wife's sister's wedding, and I couldn't do it. I had a previous, I had another booking. So he didn't want to do it because he's in the family. He wanted to go enjoy the wedding. So they hired somebody none of us know because all of our boys were booked. This person charged about $1,000 more than we usually charge. Pretty decent equipment. Did not mix any songs, beat mix any songs, not one the whole night. Played inappropriate music, curse word music, and he had his 13-year-old daughter as the MC. Don't call yourself a DJ. Don't call yourself a DJ.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, your daughter MCs and you play music.
Don't do that.
I don't know what the dude's name is. If I do it, I'd be shouting it to the rooftop right now.
Don't
call yourself a DJ.
I just think I love the fact that I asked you about tips and advice, and that's where we ended up. Which is
don't
probably
call yourself a DJ if you're not
the best
a DJ.
advice. I mean, I think that's the best yet. Nice work.
There you go. Thank
Way
you.
to bring that full circle.
Glad I got that out.
Well, now, real quick, we're going to wrap this up in just a second. I think it's been so much fun talking with you, man, and learning more about you, even though you're one of my best friends, and still get to learn some things. And tell me about where you are, how people can find you. Shout out the Noise Ninjas again, and we're going to put some links in the description as well. But tell them where they can find you, man.
All right, the wonderful website that was invented by Keyser that's still going strong and needs a lot of work, but it still has some good stuff on there. It has some good content. It has a lot of my songs on there, songs with Chubb, and a way to reach me to thedjtonyb.com, THEDJTONYB.com. And that's also on my social media, the DJ Tony B. Your Twitter, your Instagram, your Facebook, your Mixcloud, your SoundCloud, all that stuff. TheDJTonyB.com. And the Noise Ninjas, NoizeNinjaz. Best place to go to Spotify, man. We got bangers on there. We got bangers.
Yep. I can.
And I think all that stuff, all those tracks too. If you see one that you like, you can just send me an email. I'll send you the track. Or if you want to help a brother out, you can buy them on all the digital platforms. Or on Beatport. All the Apple Music, the Google Music, all that stuff.
I mean, I can buy the first one if you're going to let me use it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we people have bought some, bro. I mean, people, we did that. We did.
I'm saying I can buy my first one if I'm going to use it on my channel.
Okay,
I don't mind paying the
$1.
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind paying $1.29 to use it on my channel.
And we did something this past May that was inspired by you. When Keyser lived here, he tried to get me to do one year a mix a day in May. And I thought it was the greatest idea. What did I get to, like 5 days, and I bailed out?
Yeah.
No, maybe 6 days.
It was like the 1st, the 2nd, the 19th, 28th, and 30th or something.
All right. So this past May, I went to Chubb, my Noise Ninjas partner. I'm like, all right, Keezy had this great idea back in the day, and I couldn't pull it off. How about a track a day in May? Ooh. So Chubb and I, Noise Ninjas, we released an original song every single day during the month of May. 31 days, 31 songs. And we did great the first 15 days. We were killing it. But that last 2 weeks was really rough. But we got one out every single day. And again, that goes back to your earlier question.
Mm-hmm.
How that's today's modern technology and today's music scene with the 120,000 songs coming out every day is the only way we could have pulled that off.
Yeah.
Because we could actually upload it to the platform by a certain time in the evening and it would get out before midnight. Yeah. So we kept our streak going. We did not break the streak. We made it up by midnight every single day for 31 days.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Monumental. Thank you. It's inspired by you.
Thank you. And I listen to a lot of the songs.
6 years too late. But hey, who's counting?
Good ideas. You know, they're like seeds. Yeah. You got to plant it, maybe. let it grow a little bit. Yeah. But I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, definitely.
And I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight on the first ever Temporarily Obsessed. So thank you, Tony B.
And I mean, did we cure your obsession? Are you good now? You all good?
Yeah.
You know enough? Yeah. All right, good. I mean, I don't like guys. I'm not really too down with guys being obsessed with me. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, it's a new day and age, man.
Hey, we love everybody. As long as you download the music, be obsessed, baby. Do your thing.
Be obsessed. That's a good quote. You should get a shirt that says "Be obsessed" on it, or maybe I should.
Because I'm a gringon.
Is that a type of tequila?
Nope. That would be a good one though.
Please don't flex your chest on my channel like that.
Hey, come on, baby. Next is that belly boys coming up next.
Oh boy. Now is a good time to end it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. My name is Walkingkeys. This is Temporarily Obsessed. Thank you to my guest, DJ Tony B. And we'll see you next time. Episode 2 coming up 1 week on Thursday, the October 5th. And we are having Jason Glisson, who is a real world Ghostbuster. He's a tech wizard and he's an archaeologist, has amazing stories. We'll see you then. Thank you all.
That'll actually be a good show. As opposed to this one.
This was great, Tony. You were awesome. I appreciate you, man. We'll see you all later.